Hey folks, it's Casual Tycoon. We're here again looking at Iron Matty's Dragon Coaster Competition entry, which we've called Sammy's Fiery Dragon Contraption. It's a long name. We might go ahead and change it to something with a little bit more pizzazz. But we're looking at a kind of completed project for today, and you can't really tell much has changed from this angle, but let's get right into the time lapse and we'll see how things have kind of moved around. The first thing you might go ahead and notice is that we're going to go ahead and build one of these fancy maintenance sheds, with the idea that even though it's a dragon coaster, that it would have some fancy stuff in it, like onboard audio or some sort of lighting effects or something. Either way, there's two trains. We need a maintenance track just because I made enough space for it, and it's supposed to connect to this kind of general backstage maintenance area that I have connected back here with the Rising Raptor that I built for Iron Matty's last competition for the flat ride one. So the first thing I needed to do was figure out how to get it back here. It was a little tricky, but I think I made it work. It comes off of the main brake run all the way at the end of the kind of course and makes a quick turn into this little area back here. Unfortunately, as you saw, I had to get rid of some of the queue. The queue wouldn't necessarily work with its length and how I was supposed to make this fit in a way that was kind of parallel not only to the border, but the border of the ride area, of course, but also to the final kind of block break that goes right into the station. After building out the kind of basic wall structure and kind of figuring out where the coaster would go in and eventually out, you can see over there, I went ahead and started to build a roof. As in episode 1, these roof little pieces just do not work very well for me, but that's okay. We eventually go ahead and figure it out. In the meantime, I do add a bunch of trim as I did in the station build, and unfortunately I didn't learn my lesson and started off with the green, didn't make it blue, so I eventually have to go back in there and make it blue. Now, you'll notice that the coaster hasn't gone in to the maintenance shed yet, and that's important because I didn't notice that the coaster actually doesn't fit in here, so even though you're looking at this, we're going to eventually have to extend the maintenance shed so that it works a little bit better. But in the meantime, now that I have kind of the overall footprint, where the coaster is going in and out, and kind of the main pieces, particularly with the wooden walls I'm using and the trim I'm using on the roof and whatnot, I think it was easy to go ahead and start detailing the build. I've seen a bunch of folks do this, use the locomotive rails for kind of creating a metal shutter. I think it works nicely. I know other people have done it before, so if there's one thing you learned today, locomotive rails. They are versatile pieces. In the meantime, I was thinking about how if these trains were all really fancy, maybe there would be kind of a small crane that could come into the maintenance shed, pull it off, and whip it out that little door. On the other end, though, we'd need a mechanic to jump in, so I busted a hole in the wall and made some stairs. It's not exactly the nicest build, but we improve on it in just a little bit. I wasn't crazy about this first build. As you can see, folks coming right into the station would immediately see it, and the kind of whole thematic element would be kind of lost on us, but it was a useful build because of the way that we kind of kept most of it along. To hide it, though, from the queue, I incorporated this little picket fence and added some trees. Of course, I wouldn't want the queue to be a big block and it to feel like it wasn't, part of the original landscape. So I kind of cracked it open, put a few more trees and bushes. With most of the build done, I went ahead and started building out some of the details, some of the clutter, not only taking from what I've done on the station here, but also what I used in the flat ride. And here, we can go ahead and start working on fixing it all. So you can see I broke open the maintenance shed, extended it out. This roof was a little funky, but I made it work out. And you'll also notice that I moved the station entrance. I think in the end, this worked out a whole lot better. Um, it just seems a lot smoother. And the queue doesn't need to be that long. Off camera, I tested out the whole coaster. I turned it on, I opened the park, I tried out the Rising Raptor, and even though the queue filled up all the way, it was still only an 11-minute wait, which I think for Planko peeps works out pretty well. In the meantime, now that I've got that settled, I could go ahead and finish fixing kind of the things I wasn't super happy about the first time around. So I made a little platform right outside of the maintenance shed, and this would be a little bit more functional than the first build. And I created these little concrete steps up to the metal stairs. I'm not totally loving it, but that's okay. It works. Most people won't see it, and it's not functional, but it is realism light. In the meantime, I went ahead and grabbed those picket fences that I used before. I don't think these are actually picket fences, they're wooden fences. That works. Created some posts, and then later added a bunch of foliage, once again making it look like this is part of a larger kind of foresty area, forest build, so to say. Now, while this is the focus of today's build, next episode, probably going to be the final one, we'll wrap up a bunch of the things we didn't get to this time around, and it'll be time to submit it, the coaster file for the competition. So if you are on the Steam Workshop, please go ahead and check it out. While I did say that the queue looks pretty good, I wanted to actually fix it, make it a little smaller. That should make it a little easier for folks who download this as a blueprint to make the queue. And I also thought about the way that people walked through around the coaster area. While doing a few, rides on the coaster, I realized that there's a few areas that weren't quite as foresty. And so moving around the exit path and the kind of plaza area helped resolve that. It also helped kind of remove this very strong central staircase that was coming out from the exit, which didn't make a whole lot of sense. Not only that, but having landings is just a little bit more accessible for folks coming right off the roller coaster, even if it's not that intense. I did have to fix some of the sightlines back here when I first removed and moved around some of the trees. And I think I even go further. Yep, there I go. I add even more foliage around here with the idea that with going around every corner, you're going to see more or less of the coaster. And it's kind of only accessible visually from a few different sightlines. Using that kind of smaller queue path, I eventually extend this queue a little bit more and move around some of my custom supporting. While the end result looks pretty good, I might have to move some of those supports in the final build, but that's okay. I'm kind of liking the way it turns out. That's all I've got for today. Come back next week or in a few days. We're going to wrap up with a nice little ride sign, some curbs for the pathing, probably a queue cover, and I'm sure a few things that I forgot here and there. While you're here, go ahead and give the video a like if you liked it, and consider subscribing. I'm going to get one more of these, and eventually I might even do a Planet Coaster series. That's it for today, folks. I hope you have a great week, and thanks.